All the talks about the stock market crashing, all the talks about, a recession's coming, it's all false. Why do I say that? Because we're going to talk about exactly what is being said. We're going to talk about a Trump announcement that he made while he was on the plane. We're also going to talk about what Scott Bessent said about the nature of what's going on. And then we're going to discuss what a liberal said back in 2020. And now he's up in arms this time. But when Biden was president, he made a comment that I think speaks volumes of actually where we're at. We're going to discuss that. Now, also, that's all a big deal. Please, I understand that. But what else is a bigger deal is the fact of two things that are happening here on U.S. soil. We're going to talk about the Chinese, and we're going to talk about the Islamic faith. Both have major signs and major plants here. We've talked about Epic City. We've talked about China farmland. We've talked about all that. But we're going to go in depth on some heavier stories that you need to pay attention to. While our mind is distracted on everything going on, while our mind is distracted on our financials and our economy and all this stuff, we are slowly and methodically becoming ate from within because we're not holding true to the values that we made for America. Who do I blame for that? I actually don't blame national governments at this point. I actually blame local and state governments for allowing these kind of things to happen. Let's talk about these stories and a few more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. Again, we're humbled by your presence here to watch our content. We thank you for finding us, and we hope that if you enjoy this content, you'll give us a thumbs up. It means the world to me and helps us spread our message across this platform. Also, if you like the content and you're not subscribed, or you think you're not subscribed, please push the subscribe button. Make sure you have the bell notification on so that way you'll know what's coming up each and every day. Remember, we daily post, so if you enjoy this content, check out yesterday's and come back for tomorrow's. Now let's talk about these stories. I want to talk about the stock market, but I don't want to talk about it first. Why? Because it's on everybody's mind. I understand that. I want to talk about, because our focus has been there, what's actually happening. And it's not dealing with national governments, it's dealing with state and local. Let's go over a few things that we need to talk about. This was shared on Twitter. It says, Muslim leaders in America talking about their agenda. This is a quote from one of them. It says, today we have 43 state delegates in the United States who are Muslim. We may end up with around 50 members of Congress within the next 6 years. Listen to this one. This is another quote by a Muslim leader. Use the legal system, the law, in order to change the law. Implement Sharia law through political power. Start at local government. They don't start at the top. We want to take over local governments. What's happening with Epic Center in Texas? Let's keep on going. That's really an essence of dismantling the system of injustice and is to replace the people who represent the prophet, said a representation of Islam. Use the legal system, the law, in order to change the law, in order to establish the deen of Allah. Allah commands us to change and replace this system. Islam is jihad. Islam is a social system. Islam is a political system. If you're not with them, you are against them. And if you're against them, you know the rest. Now, these are quotes coming from leaders. And you're like, oh, Colby, people can say what they want. It's free speech. It doesn't mean anything. Listen to what's happening right now in England. And this is what's coming to us. This is what happens in the UK. Keir Starmer confirms that a problem with England is that people are just Islamophobia. They have too much fear against these people who are of peace. Now, that's such a joke. Women in hijabs are afraid to get on buses because of the treatment they get. Now, this is coming from the same guy who arrests people for Christian leaflets and Christian posts on social media, but will allow Islamic faith to be spread throughout his country. The people that are getting knifed, the people that's causing the most problem with all this migration issues is the Muslim faith. Now they have taken over 4 or 5 major cities in the UK. What did the guy say before? He said, our goal is not to start with the top. It's actually to start with a little small city local governments, and we then branch out and grow. Another quote, and this is dealing with Texas with the Muslim problem they're starting to have. Irving, Texas has 100% Muslim communities. Their housing tracts where the streets' names are Muslim. They have an Allah Akbar courts. Their school teachers are all taught in Quran. They shun Western ways. The residents say this is one of the many communities and that Texas has started and now is growing exponentially, and there's where the Epic City comes in. The residents say that one of many communities that Texas will be starting to build more and more Muslim homes and neighborhoods. These communities have a huge mosque in the middle of them. Everybody walks to the mosque. They don't allow any pets, any dogs. They don't like dogs. It's already happening, folks. The further dig and the more that I see, they're boasting right in front of our faces. When we say we think they're dangerous, they keep building more and more by taking over local areas. You know, we're talking about the Epic City, but listen to this. It says the name of the community is Villas of Andulas. There's another set of Muslim communities building in Texas. Isn't that amazing that we've taken our focus off things like this and protecting America, and right before our eyes we're seeing jihad? Did you hear that comment by a Muslim leader in the Texas area say Islam is a social system, it is jihad, it is the politics? We're allowing this to take place in our cities and in our states. Now that's one thing. Let's bring up another point dealing with the Chinese. Congressman Harrigan is dead on. Breaking, the Chinese Communist Party owns and operates more than 80 retail stores on the U.S. military bases. While everyone's focused on the CCP buying land around sensitive military bases, the real threat is what's happening on the military bases. For years, they've been in position to collect our personal information of American troops. Addresses, credit cards, sensitive health information, and no one has stopped this. He's trying to write a bill, and you know what? He can't even get support in Congress of what's happening. What he's saying is, we've been talking about Chinese farmland, we've been talking about Chinese on the ports. He said, but what we don't realize, on these big bases, they have, stores, they have places of commercial businesses there where they shop in and on the military bases or right there in the towns. What he's saying is actually the Chinese are smart. They're buying the local businesses. This is also from Congressman Pat Harrigan. It says, I went to Fort Bragg, the heart of the Special Operations Forces of America, and found not one, not two, not three, but 4 CCP-owned GNCs operating on the base. This Chinese Communist Party has no business anywhere near our bases, but they're actually on our bases, and we've allowed them to have access. So the GNCs, the Subways, all these stores that are coming on there, the question is, who owns them? What he just said was, just in Fort Bragg, there's 4 GNCs that are owned by the Chinese Communist Party. Now, why is this a big deal? Kobe, why are we bringing up the Islamic thing again? You've talked about it so much. Do you see how our focus is still on national? We talk about Senate, we talk about Congress, we talk about the president, we talk about the international situation with tariffs. All that's very important. Don't get me wrong, we're going to keep on talking about it. But what we're missing out on, for instance, let's go back. Missouri, they said they're going to start taking back and seizing farmland that the Chinese party owns. Great. But did you hear what he said? He said, while we're focused on the bigger things like that, the small is how they get us. It's like the frog in the boiling water. He said, we're seeing CCP infiltrate our military bases right in front of us. And when you're swiping your credit card, when you're giving your address for them to ship you goods, when all of a sudden your information is scanned right onto their system, you voluntarily give everything they need literally to them and to the CCP. This is also happening with Muslims, where you're starting to see these neighborhoods in Texas, these neighborhoods all over the United States become more and more infiltrated with Islam. Is that what you really want? Is that what America fought for? And so do you hear what he said? We stand behind the local laws, because then they say, well, it's freedom. We have freedoms to do this. He said, all the while, we're actually just building jihad in a new political system. It's coming from their mouth, is exactly what they're saying. Pay attention to these stories. It's not about, they're here on the U.S. land. No, they're actually infiltrating, and they're taking over parts of U.S. land. That is what's amazing. Neighborhoods of Sharia law, neighborhoods of CCP rule, businesses owned by them. Is this a big deal? I think it is. And I think we're going to be in the next UK if we're not careful, where we have our leaders having to apologize for the situations because ultimately we've allowed them to infiltrate to a point where now they rule over the political systems. That's exactly what happened in UK, and we're not far from it here. unless we start doing something about it on our state and local levels. Now, before we go any further, a word from today's sponsor. We talk about protection. This is a way of protection. Because we live in such a digitized world, and technology is right at our fingertips. Good positives, but one big negative. Your biggest asset, your home. Do you know how vulnerable it is and how someone can take it out from under you? This is the biggest growing real estate scam that now FBI is warning is happening to American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals are taking one document, like a quitclaim deed. They're forging your name using a fake notary stamp. Literally one that I purchased. I could purchase a notary stamp. You can purchase a notary stamp for like 20 bucks. Make it look real, stamp that thing, and all of a sudden, what if someone borrows money against your home? What if someone takes out a second mortgage? What if someone gets a line of credit? What if all of a sudden someone changes your deed like they sold it or they bought it? This is happening more and more and more. When you think, well, my home is safe, think again. Technology is good, but because of technology, it's allowed for bad things to take place, and home stealing is one of them, and that's why you need Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock offers the $1 million triple lock protection. Not only is it keeping your home safe, it's keeping your equity in your home safe. So that way you know that you can sleep easy physically in your home, knowing that technologically that your home is safe too. Here's what the triple lock protection offers. 24/7 home monitoring services. Urgent alerts if anything changes. You'll get a notification showing there's a problem here. If fraud should happen, here in the US, they offer restoration up to $1 million. Fix your situation and restore your title for no additional cost. This is a win-win. And here's the best part. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to offer one of the best deals that we were able to offer. Not only do you get a free title scan, just to know how vulnerable you are or if you've been even a victim so far, you get access to a personal title expert. That's like a $250 value, and you get it just for signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code TheMax250, or simply click the link in the description. Do not miss out on this opportunity to not only save, but to give you a peace of mind to know your home, you want to protect it, you want to lock the doors, you want to lock the windows. Now let's lock up our title. And let's let Home Title Lock do all the heavy lifting. HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code TheMax250. Take advantage of this special. Now let's move on to all this talk and about the stock market and all this situation. I want to read a comment from a very liberal Biden supporter back in 2020. This is Robert Wright. Now, again, it's funny because it actually goes right into actually what we're talking about with the stock market and how it really doesn't affect us as much as you think it does. Listen to this. The stock market is not the economy. And this is from a liberal guy in 2020. The richest 0.1%, that means 1/10 of 1%, owns 17% of all stocks. The richest 1% owns 50% of the stocks. The bottom 50% does not even own 1% of the stock, meaning the bottom 50% of America owns a 7/10 position in the stock market. The stock market is not the economy. Main Street America, listen to this, Main Street America owns less than 1% of the market. The bottom 50%, which is the average middle American or working class American, owns less than 1% of the market. But less than 1%, a 1/10 of a percent, owns 17% of the market, which is the rich and elite. The people that complain about the stock market crash are only the pundits, only the media, only the Democrats, and only the people that are the richest of the rich. Now, what's so funny is I feel like a little Robin Hood-esque here, is that Trump, everybody, all the Democrats said that Trump is going to give to the rich. Actually, what he's doing is he's hurt the rich. But what he's done is he's made gas prices go lower. Interest rates are probably coming down. The debt and the borrowing power of the refinance of the debt is actually going to go lower, so interest rates for the government will be lower. And then you hear this complaint, well, I mean, that's not good enough to take $9 trillion out of the market. It's not about that. The market is still completely inflated. Listen to what Scott Bessent said. He said, it would be so easy to keep pumping up the economy with fake money, with printed money, with debt. And that's what he's saying. That's exactly what the Biden administration did. It was known. He said, borrowing a lot of money, creating a lot of government jobs. He said, that's easy. He said, and that would make the market go up. He said, actually, we've talked about that. I mean, it would actually make Trump look phenomenal. He said, but this is what happened. When we do that and we pump it and we create government jobs, he said, actually what we're doing is building a calamity system that will be chaos and will fall out. What have I said a few months ago? I've been saying this for a while. If we voluntarily put ourselves in a hard situation, we will come out better than if we allow the calamity to take us over and we put ourselves in a massive depression. So what they're saying is we're voluntarily taking the market down in a very smart way to where we're taking the false money, the false security, the fakeness, the government jobs out, and we're allowing the private sector along with middle America to have a chance again. You know, what did we talk about the jobs number the last 2 days? Jobs number skyrocketed last month under Trump. Doubled what they thought it was going to be. But guess what set of jobs declined? Federal workers. Not one report came out like that for Biden. So what Scott Bassett is saying, he's saying, look, we're making the hard decisions, but the hard decisions allows us to make for a better road that it's going to be better for our children and grandchildren. That is key. How do I know that? How do most of these people know that? Because here's the truth. 6.4 trillion vanished in the global economy in the last 12 hours. Hong Kong, negative 13%. Taiwan, negative 9%. Japan, negative 8%, and so forth. It goes down a whole list of all these countries that's in the major negatives. Now ours is down, but not nearly as down as some of these. Now what does that mean? That means they're going to come to the table and start negotiating with us, and that way our trade policies will not be deficit. Our trade policies will not be against America. Our trade policies will balance out and make sense for America and American manufacturing again. And also remember, America is the biggest consumer in the world right now, meaning we provide the economy what it needs globally. When we say we're not going to spend, or we say we're going to correct the market, it's going to make everybody come to the table. Prime example, global response to the U.S. tariffs. Over 50 countries have already sought talks with the U.S. to change the policies of tariffs, change the way they look at business because they want to do business with America. It says over 50 countries have initiated trade negotiations with the United States following recent tariff announcements by President Trump. Vietnam has offered to remove all tariffs in response to the 46% tariff imposed on the U.S. Similarly, it's Taiwan. This is a big one now. Taiwan has proposed zero tariffs on U.S. goods as part of the strategy to adapt to the new trade policies. Why is Taiwan important? They're one of our biggest allies when it comes to the Pacific. Not only that, they have semiconductors that we need. Not only that, they're a big buyer of our goods to help us be very close to China. Not in a way to cause war, but in a situation where we keep tabs on what's going on over there. A big flipping deal there. These developments indicate the global response to the U.S. tariff strategy, with countries negotiating to make better situations for America. Listen to this. This is what's amazing. Since Trump has implemented the tariffs, now listen to this very closely, and I've said this 2 days in a row, Trump's approval rating with typical, normal American voters has skyrocketed. So when you hear the media, the pundits, the richest of rich all complain about Trump, middle America is feeling better gas prices, better egg prices, better grocery prices, and they're starting to see a difference because they're seeing someone in the White House fight for their job. The guy said yesterday, he said, I lost my manufacturing job back in the 70s and 80s. He said they left because of free trade. He said, now my children may have an opportunity to be able to work these kind of jobs again because we have a president who's actually looking out for us, unlike any president we've had in modern history. That is key. Pay attention to those pay attention to the record number of people who are supporting Trump right now. And guess who they're not supporting? The Democrats. They're down. And they keep falling down and down and down. Because what we're seeing is middle America is realizing there may be something good to these tariff situations. Listen to what President Trump said. He said, this is not sustainable. The U.S. cannot lose $1.9 trillion on trade, which is what we've lost based on a typical average time frame, and also spend a lot of money on NATO in order to protect European nations. So here's the situation. We're giving ultra billions and trillions of dollars to NATO to help protect European countries. Remember, we're pretty much protected over here. We've got seas around us. Even though Canada and Mexico are not our best friend right now, they're not stupid enough to do anything against us. Europe is the one that's always targeted. So NATO, we invested over the last few years, remember, $8.6 trillion we invest. Not only that, not only are we helping secure them militarily wise, they're also taking advantage of us tariff-wise. You know, Land Rover and Jaguar said, we're going to pause all movement of goods to the United States. Okay. What's amazing is their European cars are coming over here, we're giving a 2.5 tariff. Our American cars that are going over there, it's a 10% tariff. So let's reciprocate that. That's all we want, just reciprocate it. Either we drop all tariffs, period, or we charge the same thing. You charge 10, I charge 10. Doesn't that make sense? It's amazing how we get charged tariffs and no one complains about it, especially the Democrats and the richest and rich. But we want free trade for America to give our goods over and cost our taxpayer dollars more when goods come over here. It makes no sense whatsoever. If tariffs are so bad, why is all the countries doing it? 170 countries charge us tariffs. 170 countries charge us tariff. But we can't charge them back? See, that's how the spin happens. That's how we don't really know what's going on. The stock market crashing has nothing to do with true American moxie. Now, you may have a 401k, and you may have a 403b, and you may have an IRA, and they all started going down. I mean, let's just talk numbers here. What's the track record of the stock market? What happened in 08, 07, 08, and 09? People are like, oh, we lost a ton. No, you didn't. You didn't lose none, especially if you kept your money in the market. Now, if you took your money out, you would have realized that loss. Remember, you know that there's a little thing on your statements that says unrealized loss or gain. The reason it's unrealized is because if you don't pull it out of the market, you've not gained or lost anything. It's just showing what it would be if all of a sudden you were dumb enough to pull it out at that point. Now, I'm not a broker. I'm not trying to give you advice. What I'm trying to say is this. You don't lose the money unless you pull the money. Like right now, Bitcoin is down dramatically. The stock market is down dramatically. Talking about funny parallel society, that's not what the video is about, but Bitcoin is going down just like the stock market is going down. So it's not a parallel society, by the way. But anyways, I digress. Those things, if you leave your money there, will go back up. Not because we believe in them. Not because we're doing something amazing. Not even because of Trump. Because why? Even in the biggest depression of the 20s and 30s, even in times of war, even black money in 87, even 2008 great financial crisis, the markets always come back. The markets always come back. And now what we're doing is what we talk about, breaking the bone, the bigger ladder, having a newer ladder, all the analogies I've used the last few weeks is we will see a better, stronger economy based on true numbers and based on true private entities, not public government funds. We will see true money come back. We'll see true manufacturing come back when we build it back right and not on falsities like Scott Bessent said. He said we can keep the status quo going and people at the top will get filthy rich and the Americans will still be broke. Or we could do it this way. It looks bad, everybody complains, but ultimately we're building a stronger base for Americans to actually have a better chance in the economy. Trump says, why do we want to cover them militarily wise, lose tons of taxpayer dollars by fighting their wars and protecting them? At the same time, lose money on trade as well. Does that look like a friend? He said, no, that's absolutely crazy. So here's what we're doing. We're negotiating. India, one of the biggest trade partners, and actually has a pretty good tariff on us. Pretty good. Actually, it's lopsided. They came and they said, we want to negotiate. We want to lower our rates here, and we want to make it better for America. You don't believe that's positive? You don't believe that's making a huge difference? Go back and actually look at the money that America is making over the last few months. Billions upon billions upon billions of surplus of money is coming into America. Now, it's not shown in the stock market because remember, the stock market is not the economy. Pay attention to the true, real numbers. Don't look at the unrealized gains and losses in the market. Don't listen to your favorite pundit that's making extra billions off of you in the market. Remember, all these billionaires that are complaining, all these rich elite and these political class that are complaining, you know, the politicians complaining because they're the ones getting rich off the stock market. They're the ones taking your money and getting rich off the insider trading information they get. So the reason they're complaining is because you're hurting them. All the while, for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, they've been hurting you. And who cares? But when you start hurting them, they start complaining. The best thing that can actually happen is a restructure, a reset, a revolution, and a reawakening. We actually need it. And when we voluntarily put ourselves in it, and we voluntarily start being corrective when it comes to the market, everybody's going to come to America and say, please, let's negotiate. Our trade will get better. Our stock market will grow. And ultimately, America, middle class, will get stronger. Mark it, bookmark it. I don't care. You can say I'm wrong one day if it didn't happen, but I promise you, if we keep doing this and Trump doesn't cowtail, his administration doesn't cowtail, and they stay strong, it will benefit America, for sure. But the biggest story is not the stock market. The biggest story is not Trump's negotiations with tariffs. The biggest story is we're allowing people that don't like us on the U.S. soil. And until we get that right, all this other's for naught. You can be rich as can be. You can be rich, and have everything you want. But if we allow terror and adversaries on our U.S. soil, then it's all for naught. What's happening in the UK and in England right now? What's happening in Europe right now? They've been infiltrated, and they've allowed it to happen. And if we're not careful, our cities and our states will do the same thing. Forget the stock market just for a second. Let it hold, let it ride. Pay attention to these local places. And Texas is a big target. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. Go check out the sponsor, because again, we talk about protection. That's a way to protect. Thank you so much for watching. God bless.